Welcome back to your home garage, and in this video I'm going to show you how to check your power steering fluid, and the only items you're going to need are a pair of gloves and a piece of paper towel. Now most cars, except some electric and hybrid vehicles, have a hydraulic power steering system that enables the driver to turn the steering wheel without a great deal of effort. The power steering system consists of several items: a rack and pinion connected to the front wheels, a piston inside the rack and pinion, which is moved to pressurize fluid from the power steering pump that helps to turn the wheels, and a cylinder containing fluid mounted on the pump or remotely mounted for easier access. If there isn't enough fluid, steering becomes incredibly difficult, and either the pump or the rack and pinion could be damaged without fluid to cushion them. So it's really important to check power steering fluid levels on a regular basis and add fluid when necessary. So you want to start off by looking for the cylinder reservoir. The power steering fluid can be found in a cylinder reservoir near the power steering pump or remotely located with hoses from the pump and should be clearly labeled. Now if you can't find the cylinder, consult your owner's manual for the location. And the location of the reservoir on my F-150 isn't too different compared to the Corvette. While the power steering reservoir is usually located in the same place on most vehicles, newer vehicles may place them elsewhere for space. Now checking the level can be incredibly easy on some vehicles. If your reservoir is made of translucent plastic, you may be able to see the fluid level inside the cylinder. If the reservoir cylinder is made of metal, or if the plastic is not sufficiently transparent, you'll check the fluid level with a dipstick, which is usually attached to the cap. On some cars, the power steering fluid can only be checked accurately after the engine is run for a brief period, and sometimes you must also turn the steering wheel in either direction several times while the car idles. On other cars, there are graduations on the dipstick or cylinder for both the hot level after the engine has been running and a cold level after the engine has been off for a period of time. And this one has a min and max. And checking a system with a dipstick is relatively easy as well. Start with unscrewing the cap, which holds the dipstick. Then wipe off any excess fluid from that dipstick when you first take it out of the cylinder. Then reinsert back into the cylinder as far as it could go in, and then pull it back out again. Now it may be really difficult to tell from this camera angle, but that fluid level is right where it says hot since the engine has been warmed up, so it's absolutely perfect. And then on the translucent reservoir on the F-150, we can see exactly where the fluid level is. Lastly, we want to examine the color of the power steering fluid. Good power steering fluid should be amber, clear, or pinkish in color. If your power steering fluid is brown or black, that means it's been contaminated with bits of rubber from connecting hoses, seals, or O-rings. So if your power steering is brown or black, take it to a professional so they can look at your power steering system and your fluid levels. Sometimes the power steering may look darker than it truly is through a clear reservoir. If you have any doubts, look at the color of the power steering fluid stain on the rag or paper towel that you wiped your dipstick with. Or you can use a syringe like I am. And if the stain is the color the fluid is supposed to be, or you can clearly see it through the syringe, it's red in this case or pinkish, then it's not contaminated and perfect. Now if you need to add fluid and your vehicle has the graduations on the cylinder, you can add the fluid readily until you reach the correct hot or cold fill levels. Now if you have to check the level with a dipstick, add the fluid incrementally to avoid overfilling the reservoir. And be sure to use the power steering fluid that is recommended for your vehicle, as it will be the correct viscosity or thickness for your vehicle's power steering system. Most manufacturers don't recommend using transmission fluid in place of power steering fluid. There are way too many different types of fluids, and if the wrong one is used, it may cause failure in your power steering system and its seals. Also, be careful not to overfill your power steering unit with fluid. It's probably better to underfill your unit than to overfill it. And that's because power steering fluid expands as it heats up. So if you fill your unit all the way to the top and then start to drive your car, the expanded pressure may begin to cause problems. And when replacing the cap cylinder, depending on the make of your vehicle, you may have to push or screw the cap in place. So be sure to firmly reattach before closing the hood. As a helpful tip, power steering fluid should be checked at regular intervals or if it gets contaminated. If you notice a significant drop in the cylinder level or have to add fluid frequently, you may have a leak somewhere in the power steering system. Power steering fluid should also be replaced at the intervals called for in the car owner's manual. Heat from the engine and surrounding environment will over time reduce the fluid's ability to do its job and cause wear and tear on the power steering system components. And replacing the fluid is much cheaper than having to replace either the power steering pump or rack and pinion. And that's how easy it is to check the power steering fluid on your vehicle. Now go have some fun and try tackling it yourself. So make sure you help to keep this channel going by hitting that like button, sharing this video with a friend. Also, please comment below as I reply to all. Plus, don't forget to subscribe. And we'll see you next time on Your Home Garage.